Khalil Gibran counseled his father, "You will have a son, a man of exceptional gifts, of great abilities, but also a man of great sorrows." Before he was born, even before his parents met, it was foreseen that he would have psychic powers. On November 26, 1926, Alexander Skanda Tanis, the eldest of 8 sons, was born in Van Buren, Maine, to Anne Alice Shalala Tanis and Thomas Tanis. Alex began to display unusual psychic powers at age 18 months. When he was 9, he had accurately predicted the imminent death of an apparently healthy family friend. At 13, he cautioned a neighbor's son against crossing railroad tracks. Within a short time, he was killed by a train. These early episodes in his life led into a lifetime of research, experiments, and study into the paranormal and related fields. Dr. Tanis graduated from the former Van Buren Boys High School in 1944. He served in the Army branch of the military and went on to complete a classical education at Boston College. From 1960 to 1965, he collected an impressive array of degrees: philosophy, sacred sciences, education counseling, and a Doctor of Divinity from the College of Metaphysics. He began his career as an educator at Manhattan College, St. John's University, Thornton Academy, and Cheverus High School. Alex worked with Dr. Carlos Osis at the American Society for Psychical Research in New York City for more than 16 years as they pioneered many scientific experiments. Dr. Tanis was also a self-taught artist, musician, and composer. Much of his work has been published. He was a host of many radio shows, as well as a guest on television talk shows and documentaries. In the years before his passing, he taught classes on psychic phenomena and self-help at the University of Southern Maine, and was a sought-after and respected lecturer and researcher in Japan, China, Egypt, and Canada. Dr. Tanis passed away in 1990 with a lifetime of promoting education for all, young and old. From working with his younger brothers to working with mentally disabled children, Dr. Tanis's healing hands were always at work. No one who met or knew Alex ever left with a feeling other than comfort, love, and friendship. At his bequest, his foundation will continue his work, making it accessible to all. Alex's specific wish was for the foundation to conduct a definitive study of his life. The following comments were made by the 2 researchers who completed the extensive research into the life of Dr. Alex Tanis. Alex was uncommonly well loved. He was respected by his colleagues and respected and loved by his family. His legacy of deep insight and committed service to others is what will endure long after any specifics about Alex's life ways have been examined, debated, and or dismissed. Researcher Polly Bunnell, Portland, Maine. Alex was a teacher and a healer who moved to the edges of these fields by virtue of the psychic powers that he asserted and used. Among the gratifying results of this research has been the confirmation that Alex really was a good person and that many people believe that his powers were genuine. Researcher Fred Frohock, professor of political science at Syracuse University. In June 2002, the Alex Tanis Foundation for Scientific Research announced the opening of the Alex Tanis Research Library, located at the Rhine Research Center, 2741 Campus Walk Avenue, Durham, North Carolina. It is a visible accomplishment dedicated to fulfilling Alex's dreams and furthering the mission of the Alex Tanis Foundation. Copies of the Dr. Tanis archives, including the research outcome and taped interviews prepared by Dr. Frohock and Polly Bunnell, are housed at the Alex Tanis Research Library.
I don't know. Okay, welcome to our second little get-together. It's good to see so many of you here, even though we didn't bribe you this time. We're very, very partner. I will be very brief in introductions because much of what Dr. Tanis will tell us will be autobiographical. We welcome you very, very warmly. He's born of Lebanese parentage. At one point, his father was friends with Khalil Gibran. I'm sure you know him from the book, The Prophet. And in his book, Dr. Tanis quotes Gibran as saying to the father, you will have a son, a man of exceptional gifts, of great abilities, but also a man of great sorrows. And I think I'll elaborate on what that means as it goes along. I want to emphasize at the outset what Dr. Tanis has said to me, namely that he is not a performer, he is a researcher. And that's one of the distinctive features of Dr. Tanis, that he has been studied extensively in a clinical situation. So again, as I said when Dr. Heaney was here, if you're expecting people flying here and all that, I want to kind of like dampen your enthusiasm in that respect. In growing, Dr. Tanis exhibited his psychic abilities at 18 months. And as he was growing up, obviously people were viewing him and greeted him with some suspicion. In some cases, maybe even suggesting there's some kind of demonic forces involved. He had a stint in the Army, and I could go on and on for all his jobs on the side. He was a newspaper writer, composed music, but he eventually went on to obtain 3 master's degrees, 2 doctorates. The doctorate from Fordham in philosophy, the doctorate of divinity from the University of Vienna. He taught in our area. He taught at St. John's University and also close to home, Manhattan. And he knew the Mount even before we ran into him. As I mentioned, what's very distinctive about him is not just the phenomena you see on those papers I passed out. And there is an autobiography. It's called A Matter of Coincidence, in which the various phenomena that you see there are described, as well as in other books. But what's important is this idea that he has been studied in a clinical situation. Specifically by the Society for Psychical Research, which is down on 73rd Street. I don't want to say anything more. I don't want to take his thunder. Dr. Tanis will talk for about 45 minutes or so, and then we're going to open up to questions. So please, a warm welcome.
Thank you very much, Ed, and thank you for inviting me. It's been a long time since I've been in the area. I'll be very informal with my talk tonight. I don't use notes. I rely on my 99.9 memory. I never used a note in my life because I can't read. It's true. Shocked? It's true. I cannot read. Now, it doesn't mean I can't read a book or anything else. I can. I read very fast. And I absorb the page. So if you're asking me, that was one of my big problems. When I'm in radio and television, when I have to do a commercial, I have to go over it 50 times, and somebody only has to go over it twice. But I want to tell you, the reason I say this is to come back to the abilities and how they work. And it seems a shocker, but they will come back to make you understand what is happening. I was also considered a retarded child. In school, my average in high school was 90, and they told me I could never perform. And that also goes back to the development of the mind. I say this because today, in my new book, which I have Understanding and Developing the Child's Natural Psychic Abilities, I talk about that. And it's not for children, it's for everybody. Child means a child of youth. And it also means that if parents can't believe what their children are saying, it's one way to get to the parents to see what they can do about it. First of all, I'd like to demystify, if I may, psychic phenomena. Psychic phenomena are not crystal balls. They're not Ouija boards. They are not card reading. Although we have used these as secondary means to those who have the power, and I will only leave it there at power, to be able to use these things because people needed something to be seen. Now, my father was a card reader. And he told me there's nothing in the cards. It's just to quiet the person. I remember when I met the Prince of Morocco, he was in the United States and he wanted to read it. Since then, he is gone. And that's why I can talk about it. Most of my work is very confidential. And one of the things that amazed me is that I never used an object at any time to do any of my work, whether in the lab, big business, or anything else. The only time that I will use an object is when the police or the FBI or anybody else comes in and says, Tanis, we have this case, this murder, this lost person. Then I will take an object, use the object, and relive it. And I can relive the murder, relive the whole aspect of it, and this is all done under scientific observation. I'm put into an isolated booth, the EEG's on, never where the experiment takes place, and they can ask me questions, and I will go over the aspect here and go right through it. I was the only man who was allowed to touch the bullets, and Son of Sam shot his people. I can talk about that because the case is over with. There are a lot of things here. What I'm trying to say is, if you think that this is being a saint, you're far from it. If you think that this is being a special person, you're far from it. Because it's a very honest, ordinary ability that each one of you has. And you have witnessed it on a very little basis, but you will call it chance and coincidence. You think of somebody on the phone rings. And you say, chance, coincidence. Is it? I would like to know if you know what chance and coincidence means. What would you say chance was? Yes? I'm not involved. You're part of this lecture. What do you think chance is?
It just happens. You don't have any reason for it.
Or what do you call it chance? Because you can't explain it.
You can't explain it.
That's right. The real meaning of chance is if you take a coin and flip it. The law of probability of chance being heads or tails, we can tell, but if it's over that, it's no longer chance. If you get that frame of mind, that incidents happening to you are not by chance or coincidence, then you will realize that you can understand yourself as a human person. Why has psychic phenomena been such a problem among all Christians and only in the Christian world? Primarily that it was labeled as demonic. And only saints and very highly religious people would have that power, because anyone else could not. When Khalil Gibran made his prophecy on me, that's what he was alluding to. I was denounced from the church pulpits. I was told that I could not receive the sacraments. I was told that I could not even enter the Roman Catholic Church. I was put in a straitjacket and almost sent to a mental institution. Yes. Until Bishop Gary, who was formerly from New Jersey, and then the new bishop that we have in Maine now finally decided, many years later, that I was in real conformity with the Roman Catholic Church.